If I could get your attention a quick minute. Thank you, I'd appreciate it. Good, 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 good. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're comfortable and ready. Mr. Tom Wadson give you all the delightful tales about farming in Bermuda, and in particular, organic farming. Over to Mr. Wadson.
Good afternoon. How's everybody? This is the first function in our new shop. We're waiting for a little bit of, well, we got the air conditioner running and the Belco, the price is right now. But now here we are. So welcome to our new shop. I suppose just throw some wet up on the roof today. Be a good deal. Anyhow, so welcome to our farm. It's, well, I say our farm. I lease this land, and that's cool. The landlords are. I've taken this farm. This originally in the '60s. It was Olivera land, of which is a lot. There's still a lot over there. And then Dunkley's came up and they bought the property with the view of, and you probably saw all those greenhouses behind us over there. That was all a zero grazing plant. How you like that term for trying to milk a couple of cows, right? Okay. And so, so that all happened. Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? I don't need that thing, Louise. Hold on the Belco bill again. Yeah, right, okay. So they did this thing, and it was fascinating. They had it set up. It was well. It was a great plan. I mean, it's very similar to the winter agriculture in North America. You know, where there is nowhere to go out. But anyway, there was some very interesting moments. So the floors sloped in, and there was 340 cows in there, and they had a 4-inch drain that was going to take care of the liquid thing. I don't think so. So. And then they had these tanks up the other end. They push it all out. I guess the whole place went. This was definitely anaerobic manure. It was not aerobic, right? And it was gnarly. Apparently they changed legislation and everything else. Dunkley's bought a lot of houses around here. All of the land values dropped. I mean, it was a serious thing. It didn't go well. And time I came back in 1976, there was a couple of cows here. It was very much reduced down. Clearly, it wasn't going well. But the big issue what absolutely crippled this thing was they were way ahead of their time. And and basically the genetics of the feet of the cattle were not set up to deal with concrete. And so it's not like you just go buy a cow and start milking it, right? You devise these systems, but there's more to it than just the system. If the animal, and that's the shame, right? So hang on. So where are we going with this whole program? So we are now breeding animals to suit us? I don't think so. You know, because that is just you know, actually they know how to breed and you know, so just what a basic fallacy that whole thing is. Well, nobody realized the problems with it until you start getting into things you start looking around and you know, in the '70s the chemical guys. Wow, you can spray this stuff on something. Wow, the weeds vaporize. What a concept, right? And you know, it was the norm. And there was things, but there was. I'll tell you what, those things appeared, but there has always, in my opinion, I've had the pleasure of hanging out on these things for. I hate to tell you this, 50 years now, and I mean working on farms, you know. And the one that I worked for was Thomas James the vet, his father, Thomas James. And this man, I used to always think of him as 40. He worked 40 acres of arable land. He milked 40 cows, had 40,000 chickens, and 40 men, right? And that it was all, and you know, and I was the little kid who got to like ride in the truck and stuff, and you watched all this stuff. And don't let anybody fool you. These guys were good at, they knew how to farm, right? And there was a lot of manure. I mean, he had all, you know, the cattle and everything. It was all quite well run, but labor was affordable and what have you, and that's how they operated. And then it sort of started going downhill from there, really. You know, development. I mean, the killer one, the one that just broke my heart as a little kid, was coming over over Trimmingham Hill and all right to the left, whole big panorama or whatever it is. Man, when they bulldoze the soil out of that, soil pumpkins, everybody, you're out of here now, Mr. Roke. You know, and so we endure a lot of heartache with that, but. I guess we wear thinner gloves now. You smack them a little harder, right? But thank God that there is some hope, and people are seeing that it's really quite a plus if you can feed your people, and it's I would, it struck me, my last agricultural economics class, he told me two things. He said, yeah, you can do all the calculations that you want. Don't forget you're working with biological material. And there's all these curveballs, and they taught us all this sort of thing. And it was, you start looking at the huge picture. So you set up around here, and I was lucky. I was able to get an acre of land. Well, it was 1976 too, and there were acres of land around, and various people were returning to the Azores or whatever, retiring or whatever, and hey, lo and behold, I got a couple more. This is all in Paget anyway, so I end up here because I was helping a guy do some blasting across the road, and moved to the house there, and damned if 2 days later this farm didn't come up for rent. So karma was good. That was helpful. So off we went. So we farmed our butts off. We used chemical fertilizer. This place was a big bonus because it had a bazillion cows up here for a long time. The guys who worked it before me had 80-pound watermelons coming out of that field right there. And you guys seen an 80-pound melon? Those guys had Bedford trucks full of them. Come in. If you got a seat or something. So anyway, we did all of our thing and took a lot of long shots and a lot of chances, and then it's like that part becomes second nature to you. It's the workings that aim it in all these directions, be they right or wrong, that become the problem. So if you've got somebody on your team, they want to keep the land coming and the whole business going, it's great. But people kept going out, and you'd lose the odd piece. And anyway, you press on. So time goes on, and then, you see, clearly the public mindset on food is changing. I mean, don't let anybody kid you. The North American agricultural system is, and to put it, it's a, just so you absolutely get my point, it is a Hollywood train wreck, right? I mean, you're eating corn, grain corn, that is just, every blade of that stuff is sprayed with Roundup, okay? It's unbelievable. Go see a movie called King Corn. So you got all this stuff, so they're feeding that to the animals. Well, we don't want to run them on grass anymore. I've got a friend who makes cheese in New Jersey. They have a bunch of Rangy cows. What do? They take the calves off them at night, and then they milk them in the morning. They never chill the milk. It goes straight into the cheese vat, right? And the SPCA guy calls him every Friday. So we had 31 calls this week. Yeah. Can you check on that man? His cows are so hungry they're eating grass, right? So that's what they've done. No, I'm serious. You get this lunacy. And so you really start, so from my side of the thing, you really start looking at it. Another case in point was when Buyback Bermuda bought up Joffrey's Pond up Somerset. When this boss called me up, he says, yeah, well, I'd love to give you a donation as soon as you put the farmer that you just kicked off there back on it. Are you for real? They kicked the farmer off, and I'm supposed to, what is that in Buyback Bermuda? And now they got somebody up there mowing it, with lawnmowers. Right? That just seems odd. I could raise a few. I don't need 1 million sheep up there, but we can manage this whole thing better. So we're farming away, and hey, you can get more people and get more land, get more equipment, and you build. And then you start really looking at this U.S. food system and even our food system and what is allowed in here in chemicals, which thank God could be way worse, okay? Could be way worse. That's encouraging. I think, my father died of cancer. There's an incredibly high cancer rate in this country, incredibly high. They tell me you go up there now suspected. They don't ask you if you're from Bermuda. They ask you what part of Bermuda you're from now. Because, no, that's how they have all this stuff on it, right? So, so there was clearly a lot of misuse and ignorance, really. You hear of a product called weed and feed. Okay, weed and feed is like some fertilizer, and then they take this, they spray it with this stuff called atrazine, and so it gets groceries, and then all the clover and everything does a face plant, which is a really bad idea because the clover could fix you nitrogen, so you wouldn't actually have to fertilize it, but it's all land management and all this sort of thing. So these guys, they were selling this. I don't know if you guys remember when the feed shop was down where Dockside is now, Purina Feed Shop. So you go down there, and they had this stuff in 5-pound bags. I'm just coming out of school, right? And they're telling you in Ontario, just plant the entire province in continuous corn, and and just keep spraying this stuff on it. Way to go, guys! Just blast the place right off the face of the earth. So they're selling this stuff, a farm up in Somerset, the chap gets it, and, they used a lot of dust in those days. A lot of dust. Dust in this and dust in that. So this stuff, everybody's nice for fixed weeds. Okay, we have our first thing arriving. Okay, the chef has announced that we are, my sister Judith.
I'm in there. But today we have green gazpacho, which I just think that it's such a refreshing thing. It has lime and Bermuda, everything's from here, from this farm or next door. But it has cucumbers, Bermuda onion, zucchini, summer squash, the yellow squash, and a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, lime juice, I said, and salt and pepper. And it's basically a shot of goodness. You're going to feel really good. So, anyway, enjoy. And it's just going to keep on rolling out.
Cool. So there you go. So here you are, and you got this whole thing happening. We're farmed away, but then you start seeing, you see these things. Anyway, back to the field in Somerset. So here's these guys. So they take this stuff. Some of this people like, 1 teaspoon. Okay. I shall come closer and yell, how do you like me so far? Yeah. Okay, no worries. So they got this stuff, and you're supposed to put like a tablespoon or something, and whatever, and apply this stuff. So there's your boy's got it dumped in a burlap bag. Putting 18 million times the recommended rate on this thing. You know what happens? Not rocket science, no big secret, nothing whatsoever grew in that field whatsoever for 3 years. And then they did a huge, they worked it really hard, and it took them 6 years to get that thing back. And you got to question that, because it's right on the Somerset waterlands. And if all that stuff is that dead, it's killed it that much. This is not good. So you've got the modern day food system just magically becomes absolutely tainted with chemicals. So, but the problem is, because it's tainted with chemicals, because the deal is everybody wants to go in the marketplace, the whole thing's supposed to be 99 cents, right? Everybody thinks they're entitled to cheap food, okay? Yeah, you could buy cheap food, but it really has now become a classic case of you get what you pay for. Not that I'm trying to jam what we're doing, because I tell you what, it's not cheap to grow. But, so you've got all these chemicals blown in there, so you got all these health issues. Okay, so we saved $5 on the groceries. Too bad about the heart surgery, right? But it's incredible, and I get this quite often, and it's a real pleasure to be able to sort of sit here with an interested crowd, or stand here with an interested crowd, and so tell you how we get to the whole rest of the thing. So you're watching this thing. You got a movie like, how many of you guys have seen a movie called King Corn? King Corn. Snatch it next time you can. But I would hope a few of you in this room have seen Food Inc. Anybody seen Food Inc? Okay. Well, it's basically, it tells you quite clearly that North American agriculture is controlled by, basically 4 conglomerates, and the best one is Cargill. Remember Mary McMillan used to in Perot's Island? Yeah. Cargill, the largest privately held company in the world. Marion, we sang out of Perot's Island. And unbelievable, right? So they're running it. And then there was 2 companies controlling like 85% of the world's grain. 2 companies. Okay, so guess what? These guys have got some control here, right? And so they can do that. And then, so of course, they're feeding this stuff to Joe Blow, who grows pigs for Hormel or somebody. 18 bazillion have a bad day every day or whatever it is, and they're growing at an incredible rate. You cannot even go in that piggery. It's like they should maybe take the King Edward team down there. They want to check out cleanliness, right? It's cleaner than a hospital, And you wear these guys in there with zoot suits on and all this stuff. It just blows me away. They got all this grain that somebody grew in a field, but maybe that's got like nuclear stuff on it so it doesn't rot or whatever. And so these things are so fragile in these operations that just about keeping them alive, but they're not too sure about it. They're looking a little shaky, so not a problem. Somebody establishes a legal rate of antibiotic use. For all these animals, just, in the unlikely event that they get sick, right? Are they for real? Okay. It's right up there with what they used to have a thing on TV was, you know, the New York weather or something, you know, pollution index, acceptable. Acceptable to who? You know? So you got all this stuff coming at you, and oh, it's okay, and it's going to be all right, and the whole, I mean, it's just brutal. It's, you know, just seafooding that'll save me an hour. Anyway, that's the bad news. The good news is the good guy in Food Inc. is my friend Joel Salatin. And Joel Salatin was the man who he's done some interesting stuff. I think he doesn't say much about it. They went to Argentina, but he's a Mennonite, and they have networks all over the place. And Joel created this whole system of pasture poultry, which is what we got to do. Basically, it's a whole deal of, anyway, our farm is modeled on his thing with our own variations. So here's Joel Salatin up there, and, you know, they're up there whacking chickens, you know, overlooking the Shenandoah Valley, you know, nice fresh breeze under a shady tree. And, you know, there's 87, like, health inspectors up there with machine guns or whatever, you know, because Big Ag sent him down there, right? Because now this is when he first started. They weren't really roughed him up, but then the movement grew. And the movement is an operation called the American Pasture Poultry Producers Association. Joel is our member at large. We had to go to a retreat in Wisconsin, right? And I had call David Lopes real quick, you know, trying to, don't tell him where I am, because I'm going to laugh, right? But call up there, and I come back in the room and say, congratulations, Mr. Wadson, you're the new vice president of the American Pasture Poultry Producers Association. So what happens here is that, so it's really cool, because I'm getting nowhere trying to, or very slow progress, because there simply isn't the interest. The interest is starting to happen now around here, but there's definitely being an interest, because you get this whole thing happening. So what we do is, we're still conventional farmers until one not so sunny day when this phenomenal weather event took place, a little thing called Hurricane Fabian. We're wondering how to switch into organic. Well, it wasn't a problem that night, right? We had it all figured out because we had nothing left, right? So, you know, I mean, we were clean boat. Cassava, bananas, everybody. The Bermuda Gardens back there, they were, we have a hydroponic lettuce greenhouse over here, and it's 150 by 37 feet. It's like a 42-foot span over the truss. And the deal is, if it's going to blow, it's not, you cut the roof off, okay? If it's forecast over 70, you simply take the plastic off. Because if you don't, when it decides to blow, it takes steel and everything else with it. These guys were unable to cut theirs off. They were 6 months getting back on track. This was the devastation in this industry. They couldn't plant a thing for 6 months. We were lucky, just one little house, we were back in 6 days. But all these sort of things are happening. So you're looking at it, and you've got a clean slate. I mean, literally, the ground is clear. So, okay, but guess what? We still got chemicals and stuff in there or whatever. And the norm, I'm not certified organic. No, and I never will be, because some of that stuff is so ridiculous. It's ridiculously on the wrong side of the fence. So anyway, but I'm very happy with what I do. But so we started with the whole thing. So we're clean boats. So let's do some pasture poultry. So pasture poultry. There's 3 components in our pasture poultry system. Basically, the first thing that happens is we grow a pasture, and we have these shelters, and they're like 10 feet by 12 feet, and they're like real light. We make them up out of pipe, PVC pipe and stuff. And we put 100 birds in there. We keep them we bring in birds, and we've streamlined that even more now. We have birds even less frequent shipments because new develops in the thing. Anyway, so you got these broiler chickens out there, and you feed them this grain, and every morning, once it takes them a couple of days to figure it out, but once they figure it out, they scoot into this new grass, and they love grass. All this stuff really totally thrives on grass, okay? What happens when you feed pasture to any animal? There's a great website, eatwild.com, but fundamentally, in a nutshell, all the fats change to a completely different composition because they've got all this grass in their diet. Okay, it's astoundingly simple, but it's okay. Come on, look around Bermuda. All these feral chickens, I ain't seen an ugly one yet, right? These things thrive, right? I mean, guys are catching those things, and when international judges are stunned, they say, wow, this is exceptional. Yeah, I got it over the dump. Yeah, you know, but anyway, so we had this whole thing. So that's the thing. So you're looking at this whole thing. But it's more than just growing some broiler chickens. Because guess what? As you move them every day, they've left a whole lot behind from yesterday, and so what's going to happen next? Flies, right? Okay, you're absolutely right. If you do the Salatin thing and you have beef cattle in your program, he will not move his laying chickens into the pasture until those, he's moved the beef cows 3 days. Your boy's nice. He says, basically he's looking at cow patty. He says, the maggot is biggest on the 3rd day. That's how he carries on, right? And so, but the chickens nail, what you do is with these layer chickens, the broilers are in sheltered pens because they're not very smart. They need shade and all this stuff. The layers are, then they come around and they scratch all of this out. So it works this in. So this is a bonus because you get a way richer egg yolk with grass in it as well. I mean, it's actually orange. What a concept. It stands up about like this, But if you feed them something, you want to see some of these feed labels, may contain, meat products from, what are really, and how much crap have they got in that meat products, and how much antibiotics in there and all this stuff. Good afternoon. Yeah. So you go do this thing. So it's like a build-up process. And so you got to try and stay in business. That's fairly important. And so you're going to go down this new road. Okay, well, you look at what you get. And so you start making, you go to the dump and you check the compost. Oops, extra high lead. Better leave it alone this week. But so you start building the soil. You grow the grass, you feed the grass, you grow it. And that's what this pasture is such a huge resource that few people understand. But if you can grow a ton of lamb on it, 2,000 pounds of lamb at average price $16, I'd say you're having a good day, right? Managing pasture. But everybody, they can't, a lot of people don't understand that. So you got this pasture happening, and while the birds are eating and fertilizing on the top, and they're all scratching through, you got to watch it. It's growing really well. You've got to get your numbers right, your balance right. But so you get this thing tuned up so that it's still grass. The layers are performing, you just get the numbers right on it, and you want the grass just to be growing a bit. That's when we chucked a couple of sheep in there, right? And so it's all part of a management system. It's not just lamb and eggs and chicken meat. It's, you've also got this whole thing, so it's building the soil. What you're seeing out here, this oil field, I don't know how many people come through there, but that was all animals forever, right after Fabian, right up until early this spring. Well, what you get next is, so we've done this whole thing. We kept rolling the chickens through, right, and just going and going and going. We had pigs on some sections. We'd fire all this stuff into them. Put just animals on there. They're eating, and they're doing everything else that goes with it. And so, like, you plant a crop. We actually have equipment, and, thank whoever. I think Jack Ward was still on the thing. That's why I got a grant to buy this thing called a slit seeder. So what we end up doing now, and we run a lot of animals. We probably run 5 times what anybody in the States runs. So we have to do intense pasture management. But we got this thing we can actually, so we have a Bermuda grass, runny grass base, which is incredible pasture base because it has all these rhizomes and everything underneath it. And then it gets cold in the winter, so it stops growing. You fire the seed, it actually cuts slits in it, and you plant oats, which are the perfect high-speed winter grass, right? They come like a train. So you time they're going, come in, then you find that your other grass is time to recover. It's going to get a little warmer. Unfortunately, this didn't happen this winter. But, and then, lo and behold, you get this sort of shoulder sections where this Bermuda grass is really a good thing. And then you get into summer, like now it gets dry, we'll do the same slit seeder, but plant it with millet. But so you get the capacity to do this. So you're really stewarding this land really hard. I mean, you're really going for every corner of the whole thing, and you're getting these animals out there. Well, lo and behold, I mean, we've been over and above the top because we couldn't figure out how to move them. But 6 years later, if it had only rained, I'll tell you what, there's a crop out there of Yukon Gold potatoes, and it was just killed me, man. But I think I'm going to drop this one on David Loop next year. It was close, man. We almost made some money again this year, But yeah, so you're doing all these systems and all these techniques, and heaven forbid, we have a staff of 10, and then Colonial calls you and says, Billy, your health insurance premiums just went up by $70 per man per week. Have a nice weekend, so you're in this whole thing too, and then you got that whole thing happening. So you have the whole chicken rotation thing happening now. Okay, so we run this around for a couple of years. Out we go, we plant. And that crop was just out of control. I mean, I hadn't seen it. It was like that when after the dairy. That was 30-odd years ago. But that's the way you got to do it. So guess what happens next? The soil is really healthy. It's got all this nutrient in it. And none of our grains, the guy who makes my feed, I know he sells natural feed too, but yeah, I'm happy with Vernon. That's where I met this guy Vernon Burkholder. And Vernon is a young Mennonite guy in a place called Early, Pennsylvania, got 700 acres of grain. Anybody could sell commodity grain and take a bath, right? Vernon makes feed, right? He's not stupid. So he makes, yes?
I have a question for you. What happens when the demand for your product becomes so great that maybe you...
Well, we've got more coops, so you could come up building some few more, right? And more of those chick ships to me every 4 weeks, right? You know? No.
I just wonder, like, I mean, you know, what happens? Because obviously organic farming is definitely a wave of the future, and it's definitely something that's...
Well, that's the whole deal. The timing is perfect. Yeah. So it's huge, and this is the whole next thing. You know, I end up giving talks on things like the historic sociology of farming in Bermuda, and that's fascinating because I've checked it. I've got a pretty good view on 50 years of it. But so, yeah, what happens? That's the next thing. So I can get into that because I've got a whole little plan to get smaller guys started. You know your host when you phone up the bank and like, man, I'd really like to pay these guys today. And, and the first question says, nah, have you figured out your succession plan yet? I said, yeah, man, I need to succeed, right? So anyway, so you sort of start freaking out. So this is going to be the whole way of the future because these guys need to learn. I've just had one apprentice. And, but we can get into that in a little bit. But cool, because it's going to happen. Or put it this way, I think it's incumbent on this country to produce as much of its food as it can. I could run 400 sheep down NOB, I'm seriously, in the off-the-side grasslands right now. So let's, you know, it's huge, you know, and they're returning the whole thing. You know, the land gets returned. Then summertime, another thing we plant is cowpeas, and everybody else plows them in. David Lopes was dumbfounded one morning. He says, well, they're supposed to make the ground better. I said, yeah, they will. And he says, but you're letting the sheep eat them. I said, well, they ain't going anywhere, okay, if that makes you any happier. Okay, we're just adding a little step to the pathway. So, and you know, there's all it's not rocket science, but it's thing. But anyway, so here this soil is looking like something. Okay, I don't know if you noticed out there, look like a whole bunch of strips of onions out there. Yeah, there's onions out there. Those are the onions that we had to plant onion sets because that was all strawberries, and we lost probably, I would say, I tell you what, we lost a lot, you know, I mean half of it at least. And that's because it's blown 60 for months on end, or weeks on end. And so you're just trying to keep the plastic bolted down when you're out there and driving rain, and it was driving rain and blowing for weeks, right? And the only thing, like, just so nobody's confused here, the only thing just past those early hours in Carolina, next stop is like North Carolina, right? Okay? So you've got this stuff coming at you. So that's not good. So, but you know what really screwed us on that, I think, at the end of the day? The whole time, gnarly weather like this, all these snails, have a perfect little spot for the snails to hide out in, right? And they were trying, but who's thinking that, you know? Those are the perils of doing this thing. Okay, so how do we lose the snails? No problem. That's why we've got another order of ducks coming in, right? Peter, Peter, remember as kids, you know, down there, these guys, you know, right next door to us. I mean, everybody, and that's another thing. In this country, not so very long ago, everybody had some form of thing, be it a couple of chickens. That was just the way of Bermuda. Well, that's slipped off the edge. You know, they don't like it in condos, I guess. So you got all of that. So now we've got this house. So we got ripped in that. But guess what? The berries that are there and the other field there is there's a product called Captan. And it's still available. You got to be slippery to get it, right? And these guys get it. Not so much here. But it's a fungicide that is actually only labeled now for nursery stock. But this is to stop you dead right in your tracks. So you get a thing called botrytis on berries and all these things. You get all these things. So these guys, oh, better give some more fertilizer. And they're actually spiraling totally down because the fundamental problem that they have is they got lousy soil. They've just been like hurling 25, 416 at it for decades or whatever, you know. And so that comes with it's kind of like I guess it's the difference between, how can I put this? Maybe the difference between like an energy drink or something, you know, like it's just a quick fix for that moment. But it's not really doing anything in the huge picture. And the thing with soil quality is, and it's right up there, according to my friend Peter Bromby, it's right up there with money. He says, one thing you need to know about soil quality, he said, I added soil quality, he says, It's just like a tide. If it ain't coming in, it's going out. So you've seen this massive, over the last 50 years, depletion of just texture and everything in the soil. Okay, last year we had berries in that same field. Never do that. You know, never supposed to. Not a problem at all. No problem at all because the land's healthy. Yeah, last year we sprayed one shot of this stuff called Serenade, which is, I can't remember who makes it, but it's totally biological, right? And they've done such a good job on it. The conventional guys are using it. So this stuff is now, see, this is the whole thing. There's all these pieces that have to gel to make this thing work. But we did like 2 biological sprays. Most of these people are spraying every 5 days. And this is from November through to June, you know? So the soil's healthy. Whammo, the plants are healthy. They don't get sick. And but it's a big build to get there. And you've got to be diligent. There's a lot of work. And sometimes I wonder how the 3 brain cells that I got left actually can handle it, but we're all over it, you know? But so you got that. So that's the fundamental thing with crop farming and food. But then we had the deal about the animals, and let's breed the animals to suit us, okay? It failed there. They probably could pull it together now, but all this stuff. So you've got all these different, the next thing is you see, we ended up getting Bermuda hogs because, you know, somebody had to do it. And a guy actually came out here one day and handed me a postage stamp, the Winslow Homer postage stamp thing. That your boy Hugh Morris got it on his wine bottle out of California. Got the same picture. But so you know, so we end up getting something like that. So we got these hogs. Well, I thought it was a cool thing to do to Bermuda, but I was just stunned at the other implications. These pigs originally came from they were bought, as you probably all know, they were bought here by you know, the whole deal, Wanda Bermudez and all that stuff. Always our star pig at show is a black female, and her name is Wanda Bermudez, right? And so anyhow, but so you did that. So I'm just thinking, this is cool. I'm doing something for Bermuda. This was all arranged for me by a guy by the name of Don Bixby, and Don Bixby was having a really bad time on an elder hostel thing, so he sort of cut out of it and came to check me. And he's a retired vet, and he works for an operation called the American Livestock Breeds Conservancy. There are, in North America, this island, Ossabaw Island, it's a 20-square-mile island. It was privately owned right up to this, I don't know, 10 or so years ago. One house on it, and Jessica Cox, my mate Jessica, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, Shirley Humphrey's sister used to own it, you know. You know, but so it has a connection right there. But this entire island became a public park. It is full of pig virus or whatever. So you no longer have this pure strain. The stunning thing about this Ossabaw, these pigs, they went everywhere. They went to Cuba. They went all over the place, but all of them got, you know, they got eaten here. They got just inbred or outbred or whatever in there, Cuba and everywhere else. But this one pure strain remained. They had records on the 2 primary hogs on this island for 350 years. So they know the complete bloodline. So this is just not just a little whim here all of a sudden. I just thought I was going to get some pigs, right? And so you got that thing happening. There are 8 other herds of them throughout North America. I got mine from Mount Vernon, you know, George Washington's farm. Yeah, the only place in America, the only farm in America that has its own zip code, right? It's huge, right? And Mount Vernon, yeah, it's huge. And Mount Vernon is an interesting place. I mean, they're very obliging and everything else, but they're up there, and they're doing this, so there's only one catch. In order to buy these pigs, you need to deal with the Mount Vernon Ladies Association. This is a team of 21 older ladies, and so I'll just leave that in there. It was fascinating, right? But so anyway, but we got them out of there. Well, they've already got this virus on the island. It's not going to be long before they get in these other ones. And they've done work on mine, and yes, we're still virus-free with the ones that they're worried about, and we're at the closest, 500 feet. They love me, right? They love me for that. And so we've just got a whole bunch of, we're now doing a whole a rare waterfowl collection of geese and stuff because for breeding and what have you. But I think we brought in 11 breeds, and we still couldn't get 2 that we want. For the same thing, they've asked me to do this, to have this stuff offshore and completely just with nobody else in it. How cool is that? So it's not just, it'd be nice to make some money on them, but it's important stuff for, you know, gene bases and all this stuff, which are just so rapidly slipping away. You got things like most universities in North America now don't even have a poultry science department. You know why? Because all the integrated guys, Purdue and all those guys, and if you ever see this novel, grab it, Plucked and Burned, and it's a novel about, you know, how it's just so brutal. And you see Food Inc., well, we don't like what you're doing, you're cut off. And all this sort of thing. And so you get all this pressure on this whole thing. And you get to come out of it and like, you just slow the whole thing down. You think you're slowing it down. But once you get back into this sort of wave of getting the land right and keep flipping the whole thing around, you got it, you know? And then but you get these other perks, like to have these other things. It's just, I think Bermuda owes something to the rest of the world's agriculture, I think. And we owe Bermuda agriculture to ourselves, you know? And man, it's killer. Guess what? I'm not answering the phone. Right? And wonderful. Yeah. So anyway, so you got all this stuff's happening. So basically what we're doing is we're making our land healthier, okay? We have a problem, a national problem with every side of the road. You ever seen the guy, you know, caution, keep back past? Yeah, boy, it's just nuking the roadside with Roundup, nothing serious, you know. I don't know how many, you know, are they for real? Where's that stuff all going? It goes straight into Paget Pond and all these places, right off the road, right? So, you know, bad, well, frogs got like 9 legs and all this stuff now, right? You know, I mean, you know, we got all this taint, just all this poison hurled right at us. So build the soil, and now the next thing is building the people to do it. And that was a great question. And I've been actively looking at it, and I was hoping to have it down here today, but I hadn't quite. I was just putting the roof on it yesterday. So, and I got to get back these guys, and I'll probably try and do it in botanical gardens or somewhere, but like guys like the Hustle Truck, you know, they have no idea how to get into this thing. Okay, well that's, you know, but there's people, you know, there are people out there who are genuinely interested in getting into this thing. I was lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. A number of times I busted my tail, and I got some serious equipment. I can do what the hell I like and anything I want to grow. I can grow anything from pasture to hay to anything you want, completely right here. And all this stuff. But these guys don't need to be that high tech. They get a half an acre. We have these amazing, they have these incredible 2-wheel tractors. Now you get one of these guys on the track now for 10 grand if you could rent some land. You know, with the tools enough to do the thing. And heaven forbid 2 of them get together or whatever. But they got to, you know, and you're seeing this now with the community gardens. Christchurch and Warwick, they took that field back by Manse Road. All different, you know, little people's gardens. Tell you guys what, there's only one thing you need to know around here. Yes?
Can I just interrupt for a second? I'm sorry, I just need to interrupt you for a second. I'm Judith, I'm Tom's sister. I don't think everybody knows me, but I'm doing all the cooking, and I wanted to make sure that everybody keeps their fork, and we get a new plate. And if you blew it, well, I'm sure.
Judith, we actually got to pile them up there, you know.
No, we do. We have plenty. But the last course was that you're eating now is it's the wonderful chicken. It's a newer.
Okay, yeah, this is an interesting thing. So things that you do.
And roasted vegetables,
Yeah.
and then a Bermuda honey. That was a Bermuda honey and thyme and lime sauce with that barbecue chicken. Did you like it? Yeah. Did anybody not like it on the
Yeah. Oh, you got to remember, chefs, they're all psychos and they got knives, right? Any more questions?
No, I'm not. I just want you to know that I want you to be happy. The first thing was called green gazpacho, and in that was the English style cucumber without the seeds in it, Bermuda onion, then there was another green thing, the zucchini, there were Bermuda carrots, and there was summer squash, and there was extra virgin olive oil, and salt and pepper, and a little bit of lime. And yeah, it's all put into the food processor and whiz. And so that's what gives it all that texture. And it's green. I just think you have enough red in your lives right now. But anyway, I just wanted to give as many Bermuda, you know, like things like Bermuda honey and Bermuda onions that we don't get to have that often in our food.
The rest of the world's got them 24/7 though, right? Bermuda onions everywhere you go, right?
And I grew up eating all this local grown food because when we were, you know, our parents had a garden when we were little. So, you know, I'll get onto that later. But anyway, enjoy. There's more coming.
What's
Keep
next?
your forks just for all time's sake. Please. Thank you very much.
Mr. Watson,
Yes, sir.
are you into planting citrus trees?
I'm playing with some. This is a fun little project right in here. These things here, excuse the bomb shelter look, but that's what happens when you're building something. But these are 2 different varieties of peaches here. I've been working a lot more with, instead of citrus,
Plums down there?
we're picking nectarines, but there's only 7 trees. I've had these trees for about 20 years, and basically, again, I got genetic stock to graft on, right?
But how are you making out with oranges and grapefruit?
Well, people are playing with it more again, and once again, the whole downfall of the citrus thing, and it's phenomenal. Well, that's a problem too. Yeah, but we got a solution to that too. We bring in a lot of geese. We've actually seriously, we've actually worked out we've actually worked out how much land you can run the geese on and stuff, and they actually weed it. They're excellent at security. I'll tell you what. And no, they are. They're absolutely excellent at it, and that's the whole deal in them. And if we got like 40 over there, which is way too many, but it's low land, so we're trying to mash the bananas up anyway. But that's how we figured out the numbers. So you do things like that. That was a problem, but even more of a problem, yet again, was the fact that, okay, you look up in the Handy Andy citrus book, and you sprinkle, it was like 10-5, 10-3, or whatever around these things, and that's all you did. They did, some say, yeah, if you got a couple of minutes, get some seaweed, but it, all this sort of, but it was basically just real easy. Just, you could hurl this stuff around, spray this stuff around. And so again, you had your soil's going back big time. It's just because the tree is a certain amount of stuff. So then they had issues with stuff like iron. And so they were adding all this iron chelate and stuff. And you see, you take very heavy red clays and stuff, they're very able to tie up a lot of the nutrient stuff. Believe it or not, here we are in a calcium soil, and you'll get tomatoes when it gets dry like this that'll suffer from a serious calcium deficiency called blossom end rot. The whole end goes black. And because the soil's in such lousy shape that it can't get the calcium through it because it's all lumped up in these tiny little particles in the clay and stuff. So you get, I guess it's more than just planned carriage. And I get to think of a lot of things in a day. And, but all that sort of thing too. So this can all be done. After a while, the farming thing is secondary, and you just lay it out and get it really organized. And there is so much that we can do for agriculture in this country. But the citrus tree thing, if we get the soils healthier, they're breeding them now. The government brings in bud stock. I got like 200 trees over there. You can get trees from Tulo Valley, and there's a guy, Orman Manas, people would do it, and I know the government thinks it gets a little shaky, just because they're screw-ups in the whole system through bringing it in and stuff. But I think it can be redone, but once again, the key to the whole thing is soil health. That's the font of, that's this button right from jump, and the next one is add water, right? Somebody forgot to do that. But yeah, so that's the whole, that's like the philosophy on the whole thing. So here we are, like a third of a century later, and so we developed some sausage recipes and all these sort of things, and it's really not hard to do all this stuff locally. It's not inexpensive, but it's, there's all kinds of things, and it's so worthwhile doing. The case in point is we now have a bunch of 2 or 3 veterinarians who come in sort of on an on-call thing for the dairy farmers, because there are literally no large animal, cow vets and stuff around. And, they want $19 million to look in his mouth or something. And so, but these guys have all been coming out, and various other people, and they've been taking a look at this, an objective look from other parts of the world, and there's all kinds of things going on, like they're considering, stopping, bringing in milk, and all these various things could happen. And the fact of the matter is, it could all, it's so damn fragile, and it can all happen here, and it just kills me. Yeah, how are we making that? So what question with the citrus one is done? How we make, yeah.
It's somewhere that fertilized eggs have no cholesterol.
I have no idea. All I know is that the question was, I heard that fertilized eggs had way less cholesterol, which could be the case, but it's, let's keep it real simple, right? Because you don't want the one that's been hanging out for like, 20 days. He hatches on 21, right, in your egg box. That's called balut. But so that may or may be, but it's back to grass-fed, okay? Because the grass-fed eggs are way down in all that stuff. You know, and it's so that may be the case. That could be an added bonus. I would check it out. I'm not going to get into it just because it's too much for production in egg layers to have roosters in there unless we're doing breeding flocks and stuff. But yeah, that could be true. But I'll tell you, the grass-fed thing is huge. It's huge for everything. Now, how are we doing? Everybody got good time to start asking questions when everybody's mouth's full, right? Yes.
We live in Wood in the field there.
Yes.
It's a disaster.
Well, everything was a disaster this year.
No, I mean, that whole field, because where we live, we can see the field and we can see the way they take care of it and stuff. And they laid plastic down 7 months ago and still down, and now they're rotating a crop again. They're trying to put another crop in there.
Well,
and they've already spread whatever it was, diesel or whatever, that killed everything.
it's not actually diesel. It's probably Roundup again. So how do we deal with that? Great thing, because that will get, so that was another government grant that we got. Then they stopped, right? And that was for flame weeding. Because remember I mentioned to you about the Roundup alongside the road and everything? Don't let it, they say it all vapor. Don't let anybody kid you. That stuff is going, and it's going into the water table somehow, right? Okay, same up in that field. It's going in there. Okay, so we see how much plastic we got out here? It's like those guys, that's the same, they're using the same theory as was used not so long ago around here. You know, it's like if you're supposed to have a tablespoon of this stuff in the thing, let's put 3, it'll be better. Some of these things are actually quite, you know, they can be used, but no, they're not doing a good job of this thing, and it's too much of it being applied. So we figured out how to do this thing. We struggle with it in the plastic because of the issue with the flame burner and the plastic and the low ignition point, right? So, you know, but we do a lot of work. What we do now, for example, a very common way to seed, say, small seeds, lettuces, mesclun bed mixes, and stuff like that. We're not really mesclun, but say carrots, spinach, something like that, and we have it all set up to do it on tractors now, is you basically prepare this field. It's all ready to go, and you walk away from it for 2 weeks. So walk away from it, let the weeds come up, okay? Because there will be weeds, and as soon as it starts, you'd probably have to wait 2 months right now. No rain, nothing's coming up. But and you could go, so you plant your seeds in this thing, and Joe Blow is just loads up his nuclear, his lime green sprayer, nuclear colors on it, and goes and sprays all this thing with Roundup. Or you can go over there with a blowtorch, and you just, the theory, what happens here is you've planted the seeds, the weeds are well on their way. So you plant the seeds in that, the weeds, and the ones where you actually disturb the soil, a lot of them will come back. But so you know how long the carrot's going to take up, be it 2-3 days, or spinach, something quick like that, and you just walk over the whole thing with a blowtorch, right? Boom. You're now 6 weeks ahead of the weeds, with 5 pounds of propane, So it's cheaper. There's no residue. And there's other things. Now they've got there's huge developments. I mentioned that thing called Serenade, which is totally biological. And, the conventional guys are using it. There's a lot of this stuff coming out now. The latest, I've played with several of these, and these are, it sounds like it's too good to be true, an organic herbicide, an organic weed killer. The key thing, and you're seeing this in a lot of, we're trying to control something. And again, it comes to let's not nuke the whole thing, let's manage it. And so they're using all these citrus oils. And you use it, it's like these De Limon things. You see it in a product called Orange Guard. You guys ever check that out? You spray it right, your ants are crawling on your plate. All over your plate, blow it also compressed air, and you're in business again, right? Not with Bagon, right? But the same stuff, we can use it, what we'll do now is we'll actually go up the middle of it, but we can't get too close to plastic, and we got this one thing we're working on now to do that. So we could use this stuff. It's very expensive, this Nature's Avenger stuff. But it's, it takes care of it, and it just like totally subdues it. So the whole thing is, I would say our approach to it, and you may have noticed I don't have any notes. It's just this is how it all comes at you. But it's like, as recently, the mindset has changed all over the place. People want cleaner food. You had to kill every bug within 4 miles of you before. Well, you know what? There's a couple of them. They're cool. Peace. Just stay over there or whatever. But you don't need to be this nuclear with the whole thing. You don't need the massive equipment, ruining the, compacting the land and all this sort of thing. It's just really, and it just comes back to where we started again. Health of everything. Okay? Okay, what else we're going to do? So that, but see, but I guess like the whole thing that I'm alluding to is that this stuff is developing and keeping up with it. It's now up to you guys, as who anybody who didn't think the general public or whoever, I mean, we can't do this without you. And all I can say is, I thank you for the question. I say, wow, I took a chance on this thing. In any other country, they would subsidize you dearly to change gears. It takes you 3 years. You're putting organic inputs and still selling at conventional prices. And these guys are still expecting me to sell organic broccoli on the commodity market. I've had enough of that, So you're paying far too much for it. I'm not getting paid enough for it, so welcome to your new grocery store, But you look around at what we can produce here and what other things we're doing. We have breeder flocks of turkeys now, 2 just very small flocks. We've hatched 150 of our own birds already this year. We've got another 200 eggs in the incubator now. We've hatched a bunch of geese. We'll be able to do all these other geese. What else does that do for us? So when the stuff that's away gets diseased or whatever, not only can we ship back, but we can supply our local needs too. And these are not big there's a whole bunch of little operations that anybody can kick into. And if we want to see a change here, I mean, it just simply has to be supported. It's that simple. And there's some good guys doing it, yeah.
How are the local restaurants really reacting to the wave of the organic?
Not well. You see me smiling? No, I'll leave it at that, okay? Well, no, let me just give you a brief synopsis on this delightful chef. He come from Paris or somewhere, whatever. And he comes out, he'd love to see how my farm works. So, yeah. So I'm anticipating his arrival. And Bert, I don't do Sundays generally, that's my day. He says, but he can't make it. Well, I thought he's come up to, see how we grew the chickens. And then I got the whole rig on, the chef's hat and thing and everything. Taking all these pictures and everything. And he's really wants to use my stuff. And 2 months, this is Hollywood, you haven't bought a sprig of parsley. And then I go to this place, and my name's all over the menu, right? Okay? I've been to Elbow Beach, and how come I have to be so bound? And, because I'll tell you why I have to be, because that's my integrity, okay? And it's that simple. But clearly, I'm only here for a couple of years or whatever. So here's your boy flogging my chicken, right? Now, on a good day, he's saying he's selling the breast. He's selling the breast portion, let's say a 3.5 pound, let's say he's paying, anyway, he's getting $32 for that plate. I know mine is more expensive than the 50-cent piece from Butterfield and Vallis. It's riddled with hormones and everything else, and it gets worse, right? So he says, yeah, man, I was up this place and I had a piece of your chicken. What's so special about that, right? So I just happened my lawyer came in the yard. So, well, you're looking good. Compensation over the top, and I think your buying contract's just going to be stunning. You're not going to believe it by the time I'm finished with them. But, this is what we're up against. And, we have other things that happen to us. See, and having said, I don't begrudge this one, but, in the event that you guys know that we have embargoes whereby produce cannot be imported in here. We have embargoes for 2 reasons. One is quarantine embargoes, and that's for bugs and stuff, and the other one is economic. Okay, so if we need 100 boxes of broccoli a week, and 3 of us have got 101, shut down the imports. Okay, so that's fine. That's fine and dandy. Every week, let's say if there was no broccoli like right now, let's say there's 20 boxes of organic broccoli coming in and 80 conventional, it just goes to 100 organic, right? Now check, oh yeah, so we get hosed, right? Now I blame those other guys. If you don't up your game, that's your problem, right? I feel I've upped my game, and I don't have a problem with it, but that's the deal. So it's an interesting, it's not a stagnant business by any means, but you got all this stuff going on, right? And, like I say, everywhere you go is Bermuda onions in the soup worldwide, and yeah, and so, yes, we get misrepresented, and yes, I had a big Hollywood humor failure. My mate, I was talking to him about it last week, and sound like Frenchie's on a plane to me, right? So anyway, but we get this stuff, and then you go into a place and they'll undermark imported stuff. I've heard these produce guys, I'm just mortified. It was just my little ass up in the air for 3 months dealing with this thing. I whip it in here in a box, You give me $1, and you ream the public for $3, and it's expensive because it's local. You know, we struggle with a lot of this stuff. So I'm tired of struggling with it. That's why you're sitting here. But you know, because it's the way it has to be. But the whole, you know, don't get me wrong. So there's a couple of guys, Carlos Amaral, Roger Pacheco, and these guys are really coming along. But, you know, they're seeing the light. Well, Carlos is incredible. He's a very clever guy. And he's one of the bits of the future. And you know, but it's an interesting time. But I think there's serious, you know, there's serious things at risk with health. I mean, this whole, you know what happens, okay, all this grain, corn they grow in America, right? See, you know what one of the biggest products out of it is, apart from animal feed, is high fructose corn syrup. You guys know much about that?
Can I just interrupt?
Yep.
To tell you what you're getting now?
High fructose corn syrup and what?
We're not getting any high fructose corn syrup here today. What you're going to be having on your plates is it's this shredded lettuce because it looks prettier, with the heritage turkey, which is pasture grown and organically fed, and then the sausages.
Came from out here, so it's not a big food miles issue here, right?
Yeah, the sausage is also from the Bermuda hog, which is
But we have
DNA
what's that?
as the original settlers, right?
Yeah. We did
The
all.
original settlers of the island were actually Bermuda hogs because of the Spaniard, you know, or the
Yeah,
Portuguese.
I told him about Wanda Bermuda already.
You got all that, but it's Bermuda hog.
Okay, so and just so we did that, so in the sausage, we tried a new one last week, but we had, I'm very lucky because good chefs are interested in what we do. And and that's the way I really like to do business. I got several places just buying whole lambs and doing their whole thing and stuff now, and you know, it all works very well. But to this hog thing, so I had one chef friend of mine, and I said, you know, there's bits that you can't really use, you know. But they say the only thing you can't use on a squeal is, on a pig is the squeal, right? But anyway, so we had these off, you know, bits and pieces, and we really wanted to take a look at sausage, which we did. And I was very lucky to get this, another chef friend, and, you know, to help me out, and we developed this. So we have 3 recipes now. Actually, well, we got 3 flavors in one, and then we got a new one that we just tried. But our base recipe is we have no fillers or anything in there. There's no, like, you know, anything like that. So that eliminates the whole celiac issue and all that. There's like onion and garlic, there's pepper, a little bit of several little things like that. There's fresh thyme, there's fresh sage in it, and everything we can take down. You know, we take all of our stuff. We don't just take the meat. We take all the other stuff. Butterfield and Val. We did all test runs up here, but we take it down there and they make it for us. But so we did one. This plain, we call it. I told him put on the label, not so plain. You know, you just bang them right out. So he writes on there plain. I said, Bert, so that's me for an hour writing not so on 100 packages, right? So
I'm comparing that to everybody's told and leaving the launchers and whatever. I'll be fighting for everything what's very important.
Okay. Let me yell louder. Okay, where were we? Yeah. Okay. So you got this. So you go. Well, just go into the grocery store, okay, and say look in the jam. Somewhere was a lot of sweets. So let's take the jam section, and you'll see. You know, a lot of it is, you know, in the same sort of price range, like, you know, Smuckers and all these guys. They're incredibly creative labeling and stuff. And, you know, they're all reasonably priced, quite affordable. And then you go to the next one, and then, like, the English ones are a bit more. And then, you know, some ridiculous one on the side. There always is. But then you start looking at the back of the labels. All the cheap ones, first thing on there, high fructose corn syrup. So that's the corn that came up this high with the weeds and everything else, and they sprayed the entire Midwest of America with Roundup, and the next day, only thing left was the corn this high, the weeds had vaporized, okay? So, you know, you're having like a Roundup and, you know, a Roundup and whatever in your food every time, you know? So, you got this stuff, so it's all tainted. That you should see, if you watch Food Inc., you'll see how the various things, they're using these incredible chemicals in these slaughterhouses and stuff, and to the point where, you know, they're actually spraying the meats with it and stuff. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I was telling you about the vets a little while ago. What these vets from away discovered when they came around here was that, first of all, Bermuda has some really stunning dairy cattle. Excellent, first class. One guy spent a lot of effort on that. But anyway, so they came to check dairy cows, and they started looking around. He says, well, And how often do you vaccinate for this? And just look at them. We vaccinated for the longest time, just CD and T, which is basically a tetanus. And then we sort of spaced it out, and come to find out, nobody vaccinates in this country, and there's no problems. That's huge. That's huge, right? You can't do that in the States. So, I mean, I think, and it's, yeah, to buy an acre of arable land is $500,000. That's the deal. Take it or leave it, you know. So we've got an incredible gem on our hands here. And if we can, I say, just up our game and do it. I think I would hope more people start going like this. I mean, we have an incredible array of stuff. We can sell you anything from, you know, NCs and avocados right through to the zucchini with turkey. And we don't even have to fly in poults anymore, okay? We're breeding them right here, okay? That is not going to get the next wave that comes through, you know, the next chicken flu or whatever it is comes through, you know, in some hatchery. We're not going to get it because we've already avoided it. So that's the sort of thing. They actually, there was much talk right up until very recently about last year when this mite arrived in the bees. Most of the queen bees in the world were bred in Hawaii, and something got out, you know, they were absolutely pure by their geographical isolation, and something got in there and screwed that whole thing up. Then they were actually looking at coming here to do it, and then it happened to us. There's something different happened to us, you know, but you know, and that comes, you know, I don't want to lecture you all, but, you know, it's like really stupid to bring like a garbage bag full of mangoes back from someplace, or even palm trees. We don't have this palm virus that a lot of places have it. You know, people ask me all the time, and the guy gave me the answer to this one, was after Hurricane Emily, we had pretty substantial banana damage. And, you know, so there were way more imported bananas. I mean, case in point is I got 3 acres of bananas. I came in with 60 pounds this week, right? You know, okay, no all winter and no rain. And I would imagine I'm being assisted in the harvest, you know. But, you know, you got, okay. So you got all these things going on, and that's the way it is. Yes, there's another question. Yes?
I have a garden with pesticides,
Well, the standard across the board thing is 3 years. Yeah, but you can, yeah, you're not like, but you know, you ain't died eating the stuff coming out of it now, but you just, you know, so what you do is you just kick into organic imports. It's not like, you know, you have to put it like, take and get it, you know, irradiated or something, you know? Yeah? Okay? Yes?
Papuas.
Ring spot virus, right? The leaves all go to
Yeah, what's it called?
It's called Yapawpaws are toast, right? It's so, yeah. No, basically they get this virus called ring spot virus. So we did work on it years ago. And a virus is a problem, right? Because once you got it, it's not going away, okay? So that's bad. So you get this thing. So we plant pawpaws every year now. We literally grow them as a 2-year crop because they will get virus, okay? You could put various products on them, but that's against the grain. And if you keep them rolling with good soil and what have you, you're in good shape. But you get these things are a tropical plant. They got ripped, you know, for weeks on end this winter. All the tops completely burn off. These pawpaws, incidentally, start bearing fruit at this height, right? You know, no step ladders for us, right? And but that's a huge advantage because you can plant them in hedged fields and actually carry them through the winter. You know, so you got to be careful, and you got to have a certain amount of luck on your sides. But they finally got pounded in the last thing. So the tops get knocked off. They're struggling to survive. It's cold. They can't take up nutrients, so they just get sick. That's simple as that. And once they get sick, yeah, baby.
I cut it down.
Yeah, you want to get rid of it. Just get rid of it. He'll have a new crop up. Don't worry, when your shop opens, you got pawpaw trees, anything your little heart desires, right? Just bring your Visa card. We'll have a nice day, right? Yeah. No, but seriously, that's the deal on that. You know, but again, I can't stress enough that healthy soil is the deal. What else would we like to know? Yes, fine.
You mentioned that when you go to get compost from the dump, that sometimes
it flunks a lot of tests. And they need to pay attention big time on that. I mean, we were actively looking at it at the Board of Agriculture and just saying, you know, well, we better get it checked out. And you get it checked by independent labs. They were showing an incredibly high amount of lead last time. And that is not acceptable, you know. Lead. Yeah. You know, it's like the, when they put the incinerator online, that was interesting. In those days, check this. This is a little bit of a sort of conflict. It used to be the Board of Public Works and Agriculture, right? That, you know, and well, think about it. 100 years ago, they were all tied pretty much hand in hand, you know, because the whole place was farm. But you know, they had this whole thing, and we had a meeting. You know, somebody, you know, let's get this incinerator, and it was sort of pushed down our throats. And they handed out a thing, and, you know, there was no answers in the book about heavy metals, you know, and all these sort of things, and it just sort of went by the wayside. But they did the scrubbing, whatever. What the hell are you supposed to do? I don't know. But down the dump, somebody's got to pay attention. But maybe the test was wrong, too, you know, because it strikes me as being very odd, you know. So, we got huge pollution issues in our land. I mean, the whole train wreck up at NOB and everything. Like over here, this is an interesting case in point. When you take a look around and you go back, you look at Landmark and you look at the highest point over there, and the hill used to be 20 feet higher than that. Bearing in mind, again, next up is North Carolina, right? Really bad idea to take down the windward side of a country, okay? Really bad idea, okay? Well, that happened. What a scam, man. You sell it in the back of a dump truck for a lot of money, and the sand hill you got up there, you know, by the time you finish selling, you know, 19 cubic billion yards of sand or whatever, the price of real estate is what, I mean, what a lucky thing for those guys. But, you know, but we've taken out the windward side of the country. I mean, but what they used to do quarrying this whole thing is, you know, Belco had a problem. They had a lot of waste oil. These fellas had a problem, a lot of dust, right? So they rigged it up just like a water truck, the waste oil truck. I think they even painted it black to heat the oil up a little bit. And they just, you know, calm the dust down with 500 gallons of burnt oil right up the hill, you know, like once a month. I mean, all this stuff happened in this country, you know. A lot of people in a small place. I guess that's what happened. You know, and the whole thing on the bases, I think, is just out of control. But you got to pay attention. That's why the oncologist says, what part of Bermuda are you from? You know? Because different people are getting different things. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the question is, I'm a pharmacist in 1990.
Yes, sir.
I ran by Mr. Shaker.
Right.
Plastic boys help me out now.
Yeah, yeah.
But
great guys.
You're the person that you're going to be around for a long time. I've been watching you for a while.
Oh, dear.
And I just like the way you are. And,
wow.
How many whales do you have on this property? I think about a bit more than that.
Zero. Now, if you take we have no fresh water under us here whatsoever. We ran, yeah, but no fresh, you can drill all the wells you want. Y'all still can get salt water, you know? And so we use it for wash water and stuff like that. But so we ran a big reverse osmosis plant. We are now, this is interesting, where you're sitting, we had no tanks around here at all. And you got to bear in mind, I just leased this land, right? So I didn't really want to build a tank and then underneath here, but you know, then you're going to love this one. This is how the whole country works. And so we're digging this hole for this 15,000 gallon tank, which we've got to have, and it's breaking my heart because it's like bucks deluxe. And so we we then decided to make it twice as big. So we have to go in for a planning revision. And it comes back, my mate comes, I said, well, boy, you're not going to believe what I got for you this time. It says, you know, you've got to have this, because we have huge water catch area. And when we get the rain, we can hold almost 100,000 gallons of water now. And Warren the same over there. So, so you catch all this water. Anyway, so I thought I'd be a real hero, and they're begging me to dig this tank. So I get the revision, pay a lot of money for the revision, then it's got a stamp on it from the environmental health officer. Water collected off these roofs cannot be used as potable water. So I said, why did I dig the hole in the first place, right? Right? you know. But you know, that's the sort of stuff, and it's interesting. I mean, I'm encouraged because Minister Blakely, you know, he says, well, Tom is like this, but I don't really know what I'm doing with this stuff, but I think you do, so you need to be down here, and we have a weekly meeting, you know, and that's encouraging, you know. And then but the next thing is working on these other people, the next crowd, because, you know, I happen to run a pretty big and diverse operation. I really didn't plan it that way. In fact, I didn't plan anything. Did you notice? It just happened, you know. But I mean, but as you get into this whole thing, you get all these relationships with the chickens doing this for this one and that one, and that's the key to the whole thing. I guess you've arrived when you got the full circle going on. Fundamentally, our biggest input of imported stuff in this farm is feed, grain in the form of feed from my friend Vernon in Pennsylvania, and that's it. You know, it's pretty cool, rather than dumping all this petroleum product and everything else. So that we bring in things now. We can't keep up with all of them. We farm in other places. So we have things like pasteurized chicken manure, you know, which is, everybody said go down the road and get chicken manure. Bad idea, because it's got a lot of weed seeds in it. With this stuff, we can actually handle in conventional fertilizer equipment and stuff like that. And as I say, the whole clean food, there's a noble force of people on the edges of this thing who are, you know, making it happen. And, you know, I guess it's all politics and all that sort of stuff, but just stick to your guns, you know. And I'm going to stick to mine. And anybody, we just finished having one apprentice. I'm looking for another one. These lovely people might, you know, send me another, you know, garbage bag full. And yeah, that's it. I don't know. If there's any questions, that's it. I hope you learned something.
I want to get the answer from the snails.
Ducks. Right, remember they were stealing the fruit trees? I tell you, get some geese, you got a good, yeah. Peter, right? These guys, when we were kids, and then that's where I learned that one from you, and in the nasturtiums. But we had snails for days, right? But I mean, we were eating a lot in a piece of eggplant, so that we fenced it off and put ducks in it. Yeah. You know? Yeah, if they want to. Yes, fine.
Your poultry and other food products, you have to come to the farm to buy it?
Well, we have it at our markets and stuff. I mean, this is why this thing is here, because it's like you had to get an engraved invitation to come buy a chicken leg or something, you know. You know, because you come around here, something's going to roll over you, the rotavator or something. I mean, not only is it, you know, we have food for sale, but it's this is a very busy place, right? You know, it's a very busy place. Well, this is the shop. It's our target. We can be at farmers market. We have it up at our thing, or call us, you know. But our target is to have this thing, and we'll make it be open by the end of June. We have another 10-foot deck going out there, so we will have everything. We will have next door. I mean, we do serious micro irrigation. You know, we got like the best stuff in the world. So all that stuff, but you know, so we have the shop is for not just cabbage. You know, it's for. I mean, we were selling our feeds. We actually have a line of organic grains that I've been sent from my same feed guy. Another guy next door to him does all of that. So, yeah, so that's the deal. And the target date is the end of June. I'm sorry, I really thought this was going to happen 15 years ago, but life changed, right?
But sir, you don't sell any chicken manure from here, do you?
No, we put it all in our land. You see, that's why we bring in that biobasic stuff, the pasteurized stuff. See, because it's pasteurized. When you buy raw chicken manure, which we all used to do, the biggest component in weed seeds, in whatever grain it is stinging nettles. And there's several sets of weeds in there, but stinging nettles will come one time. Sometimes you get a lot of pigweed, callaloo, and it depends where the grains came from and all that sort of stuff. So that's why we buy the pasteurized stuff. And plus, it's a huge bane in the backside of the whole Delmarva Peninsula, where everything's running into the Chesapeake. And so it's actually quite reasonably priced, because it's seen as not only it's not only just as a you know, you're solving your problem and helping another one, you know.
How beneficial is this cow manure that you buy?
Excellent. If they got enough nerve to put in the bag, it's probably pretty good, because it's going to cost you another $10 to get it here. Yeah. Yes.
I have a question. I come past night and noticed that some chickens lights are on.
Yep. The purpose of that is not to make them lay anymore. It's to make them lay regularly. In a chicken, you see, when you're raising day-old chickens, the chicken, what you really do is, I got a wave of them coming in, like in the end, you know, last week in June, I think, you know. Why? Because the day length is decreasing. So egg-laying chickens are a lot of things are photosensitive, as they say, sensitive to day length. There's onions out there. You can have long day onions, medium day onions, and short day onions. And there's all this stuff. But chickens are particularly susceptible to light. They don't need much light. But somewhere up in the thyroid, there's something that picks up the light there. I mean, we're talking about a 40-watt bulb, you know, a conventional bulb, which is now, 16 watts or something, just to trigger this gland. So what it does is, as you see, a chicken will naturally, in the fall, it will, because like any bird, you know, it's not they lay for the spring, you know, to hatch their young and everything in a favorable environment. Even the domestic chicken is still fashioned along that whole thing. So basically, ideally, the thing to lay maximum eggs is really to get it up to max daylight. So you incrementally bring it up. We raise them in the fall in a decreasing daylight, then we get them ready for the spring. And then basically, as they come on, you take the day length up. We add 4 hours. It doesn't give you any more eggs. It simply gives you a way more regulated one. Instead of you got 9, because if they're out of phase of the thing, you'll get 2 eggs a day out of some of them, then you won't get any for 2 months, you know. So it's just a management technique, and I'm trying to figure out how to do the solar charge whole timer, so that each one of those pens you can just hook it up the tractor, yes, and take it down middle road, yeah. No wires to connect. Yes?
It's real hard to find a non-bad milk around here.
Yeah, okay. Milk is one of my favorite things, because I know nothing about everything that I do. My actual formal education is in dairy science. I'm glad I did that, because I won't be milking cows twice a day ever again. Okay? So you've got here, the problem is they can't keep up with the supply. When they did the 2% and all of that, they just can't keep, they're short. They can't keep up. There's a bunch more cows that come in, so that's the problem. And they're struggling meeting the regular fresh milk. But a lot of people question Bermuda milk. Everybody's got this big phobia about Bermuda milk. Okay, so to make organic milk in North America, you got to be doing like a whole bunch of interesting things. All cows must be outside for a minimum of 200 days a year. Ours are at 365. Okay, what is the big thing? Yep.
Right now, you're getting a really beautiful pasture-raised lamb that's been roasted on the grill with a minted sauce. And then in a little cup, there is Bermuda hog, shredded hog. It's like a ragu. Really. It's really slow cooked and just lots of carrots and Bermuda onions and tomatoes. And it's really quite luscious, and I left it a little bit sweet for you so you can balance your palates out. And then we have fruit, which you can take with you, little cups of fruit when you go on your walkabout. Okay, everybody happy? Yeah. Everybody hungry?
Delicious.
Is everybody hungry yet? Thanks.
I do enjoy your little heads of legs.
Well, you know what I hate about this? Is the packaging that I have to use. You know, it kills me. So we actually do take the clamshells back. We don't use them to do to repack lettuce because there's contamination issues potentially, and they do not wash well. And we're trying to find a decent bag to put them in, but we actually end up using a lot of times. This one cracks me. This is my most favorite one. This is actually a bit of a breakthrough. Years ago, when you're trying to get an early squash crop to come or something, squash needs heat to grow. So we now cut them in half, and we'll set, and it's cheaper for us to plant the squash seeds right in the field than it is to pot them up and all this sort of stuff. So now we take each half of it, we plant this, like in say late January, when we're trying to get some heat on these zucchini plants and stuff, we cut them in half and we use them as a hot cap. It's a micro greenhouse for them. We use them to sell seedlings in and all that sort of thing. Anyway, back to the milk. Okay, so they're outside 200 days a year. Okay, what is the primary ingredient in milk? What's the big thing? People drinking milk for vitamin D. Where does vitamin D come from? Up there, yeah. Okay, so that's huge. We're at a minimum of 160 days up on, 65 days up on that. Okay, not a lot of good forage in Bermuda anymore. Probably better than when they thought there was, because they're feeding them a lot. Again, a cow is a ruminant, so there's all this fermentation and everything going on in it, and all these stomachs and what have you, and they need grass. But so they figured out that we're actually, the grass that you're getting around here, cow wants everything the same every day, right? Cow don't like a lot of changes. In fact, a cow doesn't like changes at all. So one day they're picking grass from Warwick Pond or whatever. And a lot of grass was cut, and still is. But they're finding it better to get their roughage in and see this great. You can get these huge 1-ton bales of hay now and stuff like that, which is and the volume is small and all that stuff. So they're spending a bit more money on the feed, and that sort of thing. I don't know if any of you saw Food Inc. They had the whole thing about cottonseed meal and the Stonyfield yogurt guy. They had the whole, they were going on, there's a big move afoot right now to try and cattle with the soil fermentation, everything, a lot of methane, right? Trying to cut that back. So they started, there was this great breakthrough, and they started feeding them all this cottonseed meal. Harry Cromer's been doing that for 20 years. You know, we are lucky around here, yeah? And what does that do? There's now finding a few reproductive problems with excessive amounts of it. But what we realize in this industry is if we're going to ship something, I can bring in a container of crappy feed or a container of good feed, and the freight's the same, and the freight is, you know, a big chunk of this whole thing. In fact, in hay, the freight is half of it, you know? And so that's the deal. So they're doing that. They're feeding them better. Dunkley's is, I mean, there was great improvements just with when they bought all the milk used to be handled in cans before, and cans were a pain. You know, and you had to everybody's driving down the road, and then they bought the bulk truck, so the stuff is cold within half an hour of coming out of the cow. Guy does all the tests on it, and what have you, and off it goes in a refrigerated truck back down there. So that was an issue. He's getting way better shelf life now. Their processing facility is second to none. You see the other one closed down, right? They just said, those guys are a tough act to follow. They're good at what they do, right? And I highly recommend, you can't say it's not organic, but it's pretty damn good in that this, you know, these guys are feeding fairly natural stuff and feeding these grasses. And tell you what happens. If your dairy industry fails, what happens is what happened in Trinidad. And what happened in Trinidad was, no, man, we can ship in milk way easier. And so they started doing it. Well, the next thing that happened was a misty boat or something, right? And meanwhile, you know, and the last two guys who were trying to milk cows or whatever, you know, they went out of business. And 20 years, hang on a second, yeah. And whenever later, you know, they suddenly realized, we don't have a dairy left, we're having hell to get milk. But, you know, the big problem that went missing with that whole thing was, you know, all the tanks or all the equipment, the stainless pipes on must stir for something, but what was lost was the skill. And when dairy, that's why I didn't do it, because it's such a, I mean, I could do it, but that's all you're doing. If you're going to be a dairyman, that's all you got. You know, you have to, that's it. It's a very exacting. Yeah, it has. It always had one, but it has had an extremely bad rap. But it is second to none. I mean, I've got my cousins who are dairy farmers, you know, coming in from Canada and stuff, and so what do you think? Taste test, and it's pretty damn good. Just think of what hasn't happened to it. You know, it hasn't traveled 100 miles in some truck, and then the truck actually broke down. Got, you know, and this I'll be very blunt about it. Fact of the matter is, milk on the East Coast is controlled by the mafia. Any more questions? You know, because they're gonna, you know, they're gonna frig you. They're gonna screw you, right? You know, and if you lose that skill and you lose the cattle, okay, so the boat is pretty good getting here once a week, but you know, then they break down. You know the deal, and so. I think that's something that's really incumbent on us to keep going, and I'm thrilled that there is a political will to do that, and the guys are putting the effort into it. Had one over here first.
So we used to do a beautiful roach.
Not me, James Tucker. He'll start selling it up here soon. Yeah.
You wouldn't do roach either?
No, yeah, I got another guy who does it. That's right up there with cattle. You know, that's the goat guy's a separate guy. You know, okay. I mean, well, should we try and sneak it in? Let's see. All we got going on around here right now is like 25 acres of vegetable production, 100 broilers a week, target of 2 lambs a week, you know. We got a lot going on, so James could make the cheese. He's really good at it. We supply him with the herbs for it, yeah. Yes?
To the best of your knowledge, then, is all of the milk and the cake will all have a cow?
Okay, in the milk, I didn't quite catch the question, but I believe, yeah, the blue and white, and then you get the white and pink with the blue on it? Yes. That is all from 6 local dairies.
Okay, so the green and the pink and the white.
It's all fake. Yeah. Well, it is, you know. So how did we get to that other milk? This is an interesting question, too. Because, you know, when the bases were here, they had no milk. We had milk, but you just couldn't ramp. Cattle is even slower to ramp up production than anything else. It's such a long, protracted thing, unless you just buy 9 million heifers. But, so their base, you know, they had to have some. So Borden's actually where Dunkley's is located now is actually built for Borden's to make milk for the base. And it's a first-class facility, right? And so so they actually make this stuff. So the only ones produce, if there's a surplus of local fresh milk, it will go into chocolate drink first, I think, or after it's gone into 2%. But right now, they're just scrambling to keep up with the other thing. They just can't get the run in because they can't even keep up. That's the problem. But the other stuff is like, that you go, anytime you want to buy barrels, go to Dunkin'. You've got it all. It's like a vegetable fat. That's one of the components in powdered milk. But it's nutritionally, it's, you know, I used to frown when the nutritionist would tell you it's better for you and the other thing. That was just a really ignorant statement, you know. But yeah, so that's the only thing coming from Bermuda cows, and I have every confidence in them right now. I worry about one guy a little bit, but I do the best I can to help him too, you know. Yeah, I would buy it. I'd drink it. Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting. We have a comment in the front. I drink 2%. So, how much fat is in whole milk? Come on, you guys, tell me. Okay, in Bermuda, before they made the law, it used to be, it was Dunkley and Pioneer dairies, okay? All right, so those guys had, wherever they had their dairy, and Pioneer was at Outerley, Chauncey Outerbridge's farm. And anyway, they had this whole thing, but the law was a lot of guys getting busted, you know, dumping water in the milk and everything. A lot of ignorance going on in those days. But the rule was you couldn't do anything to the milk. When the processors simply had to pasteurize it, and then they later homogenized it, and did that whole thing. So you could get anywhere from, check this out, you could probably go as low as about 2 or 3% on a really bad day, to a Guernsey or a Jersey, probably can give you, a good Jersey, give you 7%. But most of the cattle that are being bred now are basically Holstein, and their milk was historically paid for with like butterfat content, you know, so much a pound, right? And then they moved to a whole nutrition thing where it encouraged production, and sort of maybe under the guise of health stuff and everything else, but the payment procedure was based on a thing called SNF, which was solids, not fats. So they would actually tell you, you know, what you can pull out of this thing, so they could get the actual nutritional value out of it, and get the nutritional value out of it, and so pay you like that. So then that caused the emergence of, well, again, it's all adaptation in cattle, and a lot of work's been done in it. So they started getting a cow that would basically bred it for, they took the, say, Jersey and the Jersey and Guernsey sort of high fat producers, brown Swiss as well, out of it, and went more for production of solids. So now a lot of the milk coming into that thing, if it's a hard run Holstein herd, it will be maybe 3.2% fat. So I love that one. You know, I mean, see, it's clever advertising all over the place. You know, it's like you know, you could buy an organic chicken. These girls got something for you to eat, so I better shut up. Here we go.
We're ready for you to move. We're ready for you to move with them.
Oh yeah, we're moving.
So, but I just want you to know that you're getting a strawberry and a Bermuda banana, and I'm next to Tommy's stand every week at the farmers market with gluten-free products, and I also, Tom's truck is going to be out and he buys stuff off of it, and I have my book on it, so they're giving me a really cheap price on it. It's being all the way to Southampton. So I just put you on the truck, but I'll have them next week if you want them. And but just please know that we've really enjoyed having you, and I hope you enjoyed the food. That's it. Thank you. I had good teachers. I don't know if anybody's been out to California ever, but I used to work at Chez Panisse in Berkeley. You know, with Alice Waters. I interned there. I'm a late bloomer chef. I'm actually a writer and a photographer, and that's what I've done most of my life. And when I was 41, I just knew that when I was sitting on my rocking chair when I was in my 80s, I just really didn't want to be sitting there saying to myself, I wish I'd gone to cooking school. So dreams are in our world to be had, and I'm glad that you all came. Thank you.
Okay.
Before you move, I just want to take a moment and just say thank you to Tom and to Judith and to those who are assisting. We're just grateful. The Department of Community and Cultural Affairs are most grateful that you have supported this event, and we pray that you will continue to support us. We have a few more events throughout the rest of this month to be completed, and we would appreciate your support. You may have gotten this flyer, and if not, it would have been in the newspapers. But
Now, do we know
have
whose
some
car that
flyers
is?
if you need it as you go past. We just want to say thank you.
Because
for
she's coming in
coming.
here.
Thank you for supporting, and thanks to the Watsons for allowing us on your premises. And now we know where you are. We're going to come looking for your food. So thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I guess
So watch your step, right?
whose
Remember the steps
is the
going
thing?
down.
Yeah, just said it. This is a very common form of production for us now. No, well, the onions are there because we lost the berries and all that weather all winter. I mean, we got pounded up here all winter, right? Yeah. Pounded, and then it doesn't rain. I mean, that piece of potatoes there. I had 1,000 bags here marked on that. Yeah, you know, but so, okay, why do we use plastic? So you see the header line on the end. Underneath here it's all drip irrigated. Why do we do drip irrigation? Can get double the crop. By using plastic and drip, you tend to get, certainly in berries, nothing's resting on the land. You have a raised bed so it drains well, and you can, I would like to say, you can get damn close to double the yield, okay? Just by the regular water, and we can fire all kinds of stuff up there. So in berries, they're not resting on soil. That's huge. The black plastic, we use it in the winter, heats the land. It's huge, right? And then we got white plastic we're laying out right now for summer stuff. And but if you start doing overhead irrigation, they say you lose half of it. Okay, you lose at least half of it, but then you're getting in some plant that, I mean, we're on like 100% humidity all the time. You know, you're just begging for more fungal issues, which is, you know, so you score on everything else. Case in point, this field is almost to the square foot, 1 acre. An acre being 43,560 square feet, right? Because you got to do your calculations. So we spent 20 years. I didn't even get into quarantine embargoes, but quarantine embargoes, this sweet corn, carrots, and sweet potatoes cannot come in for various bug and disease, whatever. So so we couldn't bring any new sweet potato stock. And, you know, it was just sort of whittling away. I kid you not, I spent 20 years finding this stuff is actually grown in a lab in NC State in Raleigh. Check this woman's title, who does it, the chief of micropropagation. My name is Vezdana Pesik von Estbrook. Right? Morning. You know, jeez. How could you possibly forget your ace girl, right? But so they grow like, they do 500 plants every year, and they got 10 farmers up there, these big screen houses, and they get 50 plants each. Starting in the winter, they grow them, then they actually do them in hanging baskets, but this stuff is, what happens is, if you don't have clean stock, you get this virus, and I'll show you some of that. It's very common, and especially because we don't put all the Hollywood nuclear stuff in it, we'll get it even sooner. So we just assume we buy new stock. I'm trying some stock up there right now from last year, and I'll get something, but generally you double the yield again because you got clean stock. So you pay for it, but it works. So 20 years waiting for that, and this guy said, he's a young guy. Very young guy. He's the biggest tobacco grower in North America, and that's all based on quota. My boy's got 700 acres of tobacco, and people are still smoking, right? And Pops, you know, Pops was good to him. So anyway, this is an acre. We laid it out in plastic. Up there, it's all done on bare land.
Sorry, this is an acre?
Yeah, almost to the square foot. So we lay it out like this, and everybody else is planting sweet potatoes on these 3-foot rows, and, you know, it's going to rain, and the fields from here to St. George's and back, so you don't have to turn around. Okay, there's nothing, even when you're conventional farming, there was nothing recommending, you know, no weed control in it. So anyway, we've been playing with this for a long time, so we set this field in sweet potatoes in plastic. And I'm saying, and the dead giveaway is when the plastic starts to bulge, right? You're going to have a nice day when you see that happening, right? And so, and I'm suddenly freaking out. I said, man, I have a really serious piece of sweet potatoes. So I call him up, what should I expect in a yield? You know, I said, I have no idea, man. I said, you know, I got to figure out how to stash this thing or whatever. He says, well, we work on, he says, you know, if you really screw it up, you might get 400 bushels, which is 400 times 55, right? That's the thing. But, you know, average yield is, I think you can get 500. I bet you get 500, Tom. That's like really good. Yeah, 850.
Wow.
You know? Okay? So, and all of a sudden I was getting asked to come to a lecture in England, how to grow sweet potatoes on plastic. It's a fundamental problem. Minus 20 degrees, right? They won't grow. So this is this Nature's Avenger that we're using in here. But quite often we'll manage the weeds in the middle now. We just mow. We've got a brush mower and just mow it, and we'll just manage it as opposed to nuking it. I mean, everybody else got a lot of Roundup. You know? Yeah. So that's it over there. Now let's look at some stuff around here. But that is supposed to be a field of berries. I mean, we only started picking berries, properly 3 weeks ago. We should start in early January, you know? Anyway, that didn't happen. This is something interesting here that I will show you guys. It's not actually, okay. But what happens here, so we have 2 of these boxes. These are our own containers. Now, when we first started buying feed, it costs, check it out, you're getting 20 tons in a tin can, okay? 20 tons. Costs you 4 cents a pound. You know what it works out to be? That's $1,600 just to load it. I was afraid to do the math on unloading it at this end, right? Because it's all bulk bags, right? 100-pound bags, a killer. So that wasn't working. So we bought these containers, and you'll notice there's these 3 tracks here. 1, 2, 3, and this hatch is cut above. So in order to put 10 tons of feed in here, you would need 100-pound bags. That's 200 bags, right? Yeah, 200 bags to get that 10-ton, and take you know, how these 2 poor Mexican guys forever to hump it in there. Or you can hook it up to Vernon's auger on a tractor with no rubber tires, because his people don't believe in rubber tires, all steel wheels, right? And he pumps a ton a minute, okay? So we got we can do 10 tons, 12 tons, or about 13 and a half of the next ones there. All these gates, we had these containers built for us, insulated, everything else. So the whole operation now can be done by 3 guys in, like, it's the best one they've done so far was 1 hour and 14 minutes, okay? You know, so, you know, and so we get it at this end here. There's no packaging. This thing fits across the front of you. You can't see it, but this, like, so a whole wall goes up wherever we want to put it, and some serious weight on it, right? You know, and so it all works. And then you hear a little rumbling in there. When it gets here, we just undo one of the fill-up hatches, and a whole air conditioning unit drops on it. So, boom, we got trans, we got everything, and we got $1,600 in our pocket every trip, right? But that's what you got to do to stay in business. It's not like you ain't putting that 16 in your pocket. It's just, you know, to get you through the next week, because Eberly or somebody's up there dumping chicken on you. And you get like all these guys, organic chicken. Now talk to me about organic. So I'm up here, and these chickens in these pens around here, shelters, sorry, that's the new trendy word. They're in shelters, no longer in pens. We don't kill chickens, we harvest them. But you got, but you know, but it's all these things, but you got to do that to stay in the game. But you got Eberly up there, who's my basic competition. And in the summer, they may have, they're a custom processor, really, and they contract buy, and they contract buy, they contract sell, and they process. Big operation. And but they're sending organic chickens in here all winter. Okay, those organic chickens, the only difference between them and a Tyson or Purdue is the feed. They don't see the light of day. The job of the guys, the one guy's house, he takes 26,000 broilers, 500 feet long, 40 feet wide, and they've been going on for years, right, decades. And so we dump a different type of feed, and that's different. This is just like, see, organic is okay. Well, there's okay, the best one I've heard say, well, yeah, as long as it's on the periodic table, I'll eat it. It's a cool, yeah, right, arsenic, chromium, you know, but so there's huge misconceptions. But the thing about organic is, the fact of the matter is some of the biggest, like Dole, Coca-Cola, and somebody else are the top 3 right now. And their probably busiest department in their farm would be the legal department to figure out how we can jump around this corner. And that's the deal, right? And I'm getting questioned by somebody downtown, you know, who says, well, you know, it's got a green or white USDA sticker on it, or USDA organic. They forgot to mention that the USDA is the most corrupt department. It's a train wreck, right? And so, you know, so they're going to believe this is green and white sticker. Boy, talking about, well, do you have organic spring water? I said, Bert, all I do is catch you stuff off the roof. It's got a couple of houses to the weather of me. And y'all got a problem with that? I said, and so does it give you all this information on the USDA green and white sticker that the well was here and it tested this and that? Are you for real, man? You know, and they just, it drives you nuts, right? I mean, they do anything to run you into the ground around. It's brutal. So I gave up really trying to preach it around here. I just serve on boards in America now. I know nothing here. I'm a foreign expert when I go to America now. Yeah. But, you know, that's pretty humbling, you know, that those guys appreciate my opinion. Anyway, so that's how we make that life easier. And then they send up, they have these big container trucks, right, with the ramps. They can lift it off. It was spectacular the day that we had the great, apparently we're drilling for oil, a hydraulic ram. Thank Christ I had a dump truck full of sand, but 80 gallons of hydraulic oil went like, you know, and I feel bad about that stuff. I feel bad. I didn't feel that bad because I got a few shares in the early handle, but you know, but it's all this, but you're cutting carbon footprints better. And, you know, we're not the cure-all and end-all, but I mean, talk to me about the food mileage on your plate today. It never left the farm, right? Until it was in your stomach. It's pretty cool. Yeah. He's, Room's been with me so we're just like redeveloping this whole thing down here. We're spending a lot of time and effort right now raising land around here because they don't call this Luke's Pond for nothing, right? It's inks, right? It's all on peat. And so I'll show you what we've done out here. This is our new ram. Guess which one he is. Right? Okay, we'll start just right here for a second. Okay, this is not perfect pasture poultry here because this is just layers. Okay, so these are jars are just coming off. We've just raised all of this land. There's bananas. That land in there is almost 3 feet lower. We got to raise that because the tide is coming up. Don't anybody kid you, the tide is coming up. Okay, we've come up a whole pile out here. This is a work in progress. After Fabian, we put 1,200 cubic yards of soil from over there. But okay, everybody said it couldn't be done, but you run chickens on it. You resettle the whole thing. You make it happen. And people, they have no idea how to renovate. They said, look, do not touch the fences because they could be, yeah, let me do the world a favor here.
Careful there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Dennis, you might get a little jolt. So this is just some layer hens out here because they're getting grass. Okay, the two styles of housing, the low flat roofed ones there, those are Salatin broiler pens with egg boxes on the side, but I don't like them. They're really time consuming to build. And so we've gone to these hoop houses, they're 16 feet long, 8 feet wide. You put these, like, the stuffed cattle panels, they call it, over them, and we actually put styrofoam in the roof of them. And so you got, like, all the nest boxes and the roofs, and they're just free to come and go. Yeah, yeah. So, so they're doing that thing, but see, these guys are scratching around. That's where we're running broilers right now. We've got some small broilers over this side. These are two types of, these are breeding flocks of turkeys. So they get scooted along not so often. And then they've got, all, you know, same thing, but it's layers and meat chickens the whole time.
What do you mean when you say broilers?
Okay, right over the other side over there.
Yeah.
Way over there. You see those, the far pen, those are the meat chickens, okay?
Oh, okay.
So we've got those happening. We used to bring in them every 3 weeks, but then we got smart. They developed another chicken that we can grow. It takes a couple weeks longer to grow. So now we're bringing them every 4 weeks. We may go to 5, depending on how much we can stretch this thing. Because every time, if he takes one baby chick to the airport, it's $200 right now, right? So that, you know, you have to be on your toes to stay up in this thing. Then you got, like I say, you got Eberly coming at you, and Miles going to have the turkeys this year from Eberly, you know. And any one of them seeing the light of day, and you know, it just pisses me off, right, immensely, because there's a lot of cheating. Nobody else is going to, in Pennsylvania, is going to have chickens on grass in December. I can guarantee you that, right? Okay? We can. So, I mean, this is what I'm trying to say to you. Everybody just has run this industry into the ground.